Welcome back to the second hour of Love Babz Love Talk. I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy, and we are this hour we're gonna debunk the Jewish people controlling the weather because that's a thing, I guess. It's crazy. So I don't know anything about the forward.com, but I do know back in March 2018, Trayon White Sr. um was a lawmaker. That's the first I got wind of this. This is a brother, and by brother I mean black guy, as a councilman in Washington D.C. in D.C. This is the first time I ever heard this. Um, he apologized for sharing a video based on a conspiracy theory that Jewish financiers control the weather. Now I didn't know about the financier part. I don't know. This thing grows more and more absurd the more I hear about it. Anyway, he posted a video of snow flurries and warned of climate manipulation. And he blamed the Rothschilds, a famous Jewish business dynasty who are a target of anti-Semitic conspiracies. So this is the first time I ever heard of Jewish folks beyond the Bible, beyond Moses and the Red Sea kind of stuff. And I guess plagues and there's a weather thing too, when Moses was trying to get the Jewish folks out of Israel, and he's like back and forth with the Pharaoh on these plagues, So I guess that's a weather issue too, locust and all of that. So turning the water blood, I guess that's a weather issue. So this is the first time I ever heard of this. And then, but apparently people are starting to really believe that the Jewish folks, Harry, control the weather. I'm like, if they control the weather, wouldn't it be just nice weather all the time? It's FYI.
Just one note. I'm actually taking care of my granddaughter Lumi at the same time. So
Hey,
if
Lumi, is she all right?
yeah, I'm just feeding her breakfast.
That's right. She's not old enough to go to school yet.
No. Well, she just turned 3, so she will be.
Oh, okay. All right.
Um,
3.
yeah, so the Marjorie Taylor Greene one, she didn't say the Jewish people control. She's talking about government, and she cited government programs that now she is a person who says stuff that's out there, that you could question. But on this one, you have to look up like in the during the Vietnam War, we had Operation Popeye, which was the government actually. Oh my God, let me get rid of this. So Operation Popeye, which was the government actually trying to extend the monsoon season over there so that they could win the war. Then you have other things, Operation Cirrus, and different times where the government and there's some patents on the record of people actually patenting stuff to control the weather. I know China and Russia claim to have the capability also.
Yeah, but this is not that.
Well, no,
Mil
no, not point.
Milton is not that.
No,
And
but
to
pointing, that's different. That's pointing a hurricane at your citizens is a totally different thing. That's a totally different thing. That's the conspiracy, right? That if we have the capability that we're actually going to point it at our citizens for election purposes. So, yeah, mama.
yeah, but the election thing, that helps no one.
Right, and then you have different times like former CIA Director Brennan who kind of confirmed that there were, the chemtrail stuff that people have been talking about for a long time. But there's different places actually working on how we actually shield the Earth from the sun. I know.
I get that. I get that, Harry, because for science purposes, because since we've not been good stewards of the earth is responding in kind, and so you try to figure out ways to combat the ever-changing climate. I get that. But this notion, because I'm seeing two tracks running. The stuff that Marjorie Taylor Greene has said, which is crazy, crazy. And then they start with the well, Jews control the weather too,
Well,
or
because
also
yeah, you remember that guy? We actually mocked him for quite a long time.
for a long time. But I'm reading the articles, Harry. It's filtering back up into the because when
Yeah,
you say they, people assume you're talking about Jewish people.
well, right. Well, it's part of the zeitgeist, right? So it's like
What?
it's just what, mama? Oh, okay. So so the thing is that because everybody feels like somehow or another the Jewish people control the world, right? Now, if they control the world, they wouldn't have that little piece of land in the Middle East that they have to defend, right? So, yeah, take a bite.
So the weather controlling thing is just an anti-Semitic trope. And I've never heard this until that brother had said it. So but
The interesting thing about him is that he was in his car streaming, live streaming because I think that he was late or something because of the weather. He was like blaming the Jews.
oh.
I mean, there's people who are wacko, It's like, but I think that we need to be careful when we completely mock a situation because the technology exists. Years ago on CBS, they had done a story.
I don't mind mocking it, Harry, because I understand. I can make it different. I can differentiate between what we do for science and what we do for pure propaganda and and I would not say anybody is trying to
No,
harm people in Florida or the Gulf states. Like I'm just not gonna ever believe that.
well, that's the thing is whether you believe that your government will actually point a storm at you.
Well, I think the government will do a lot of things. A
Okay.
lot.
Because
And they have. I mean, we had enslavement of people in this country, which was wholly legal. So I'm not surprised by anything the government does.
well, that's
However, in
the thing.
this matter, I don't believe that's the case.
But that's the thing that it's like so if well, and the reason I say be careful when you mock it because when a person actually hears you know people mocking the idea and then they go actually and read online that there's programs that actually exist, they can't differentiate. A lot of people
Well,
can't.
that's unfortunate because you got to get there. Did you see the guy, Harry, that the straps of the cables on his house? You see
No,
that guy? He had put big straps across his house
boy.
to keep it from being hurricane lifted up.
Oh,
It's pictures of it. I want to know what happened to that guy. Like, did that work? If that works, Harry, that
if
might
he,
be a game changer.
I mean, if he tied it down,
He did.
I mean, the thing is that that doesn't stop the hurricane from tearing up your house.
Well, no, but
It's just that your house isn't gonna fly off in one piece, right? But the little pieces are gonna fly off because you tied it down.
I want to know what happened to his house. There's a good picture of it on the I don't know where I saw it, but
Like if you see the dome in Tampa Bay, where the Tampa Bay Rays play, their whole roof was
it's
taken off,
gone.
and I think it was actually built to withstand 120-mile-an-hour winds.
Harry, does anything withstand 120 mile?
Well,
When
the
I
problem,
see these things that say that, I
well, the
don't.
problem is that they build it for 120. Shouldn't you like build it for 200 or something? because the winds actually from the storm were 160 mile an
Yeah, I
hour.
know.
So it's like
Like,
uh
wouldn't you do the most?
you wanna build it for a category 5. You don't go, well, you know what? Let's build it for a category 3. That makes no sense to me.
I don't. It makes no sense to me either. Like, what's the like? Why don't you just go up to two categories and just make it
You know,
foolproof?
I know it's just it makes no sense. You should always plan for the worst, right? And if you don't get the worst, you just go, hey, we're good. But if you plan for half and you get the worst, it's crazy.
Harry, there's got to be a way to build houses that could withstand.
Well, there are concrete, right? So if you go to a lot of the islands, like if you go to Puerto Rico, there's all you see is a whole bunch, even like in the desert where I was now, Arizona. Those would survive sandstorms and all of that stuff because they're built low and
Yeah,
and they're concrete, right? So and if they build high, they built them on concrete stilts. It's like huge poles so that a flood
will
is
go
protected from
under.
flood also. So the Caribbeans and everything, they know how to build for stuff like that. The problem is that the rest of the infrastructure, the
Yeah.
government doesn't know how to build, right? So it's like you look at all the islands, what in the world are all the electricity, all the cables and everything? Why are they still on poles? Why aren't they underground? Right? So every time a storm comes, it knocks out all the electricity for weeks or months because they still got them on poles. Put everything underground so it doesn't. And it's like it's like it's a plan, right? It's like they want to stay employed. The people who keep doing the same thing over and over, isn't that insanity?
I don't know if they can afford to do it because that requires a great deal of
Well,
money to do
yeah,
that.
but if you have to keep rebuilding your community, it
Well,
costs.
yeah. Well, I think they hedged their bets, Harry. Like, well, how often? When's the last time we had a big storm that did this? Right? Like, I think they hedged their bets
Yeah, like Tampa Bay. I think that's why they built for category 3, right? Because
because they
they ha
never get those kind of storms.
right, they haven't gotten that kind of storm in more than 100 years. So they're like, yeah, good
Sarasota,
chance.
what is it? Sarasota. Sarasota is probably one of the few places in Florida that never got. It was considered a place that never got storms. They never got hit. They got hit hard as hell. The Helene storm, not even the Milton storm, the Helene storm did them in.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is that I think also the plan. It's just like Katrina, right? If you remember Katrina when it first hit, they were celebrating that it wasn't as bad, right? So, but the thing is that it's the swelling of the ocean that is the aftermath of all that flooding that comes in that does more destruction than anything.
And those levees didn't hold.
Yeah, so and that's another thing. I mean, can we build something that doesn't just crumble? You know, it makes no sense.
I,
Everything,
I I bet you when they were new, Harry, they were fine. But I think things have to be looked at and checked on every 20 years or something. Like you can't let it go 50 years out or 100 years out and be like, well, you know.
that's you.
I mean, I feel that way about bridges, right? Like who checks bridges on the regular? And if somebody makes the case for saying, "Oh, it's time for a new bridge," who shuts it? Like who says don't we can't afford it? Or, you know what I mean? Like those kind of decisions happen. Like,
Yeah,
oh
but
yeah,
it's after the fact that well, it's Monday morning quarterbacking is what they call
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So it's easy to look back. It's look at the bridge in Maryland, right? That just collapsed. Well, the ship ran into it, right? So now you look at the record of the captain. of that boat, and oh well, he's had many problems in the past. And it's like, so how is it? At what point it's just like a police officer who does something stupid. You go back and you go, "Whoa, this guy's been a problem for the last 10 years." So, do you wait for something horrible to happen before you pull these people? It makes no sense.
But at the same time, Harry, is it wrong to be preemptive and assume that they're gonna be worse? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you gauge that? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm so with you. Because I feel like if you're a cop that's got a bunch of harassment, you beating people's asses and that kind of stuff, and you keep getting a little handshake and a little pat on the back, at some point you're gonna go too far. Like something is gonna you're gonna go too far. I just believe that. That's just like any domestic violence shit. I mean, oops, any domestic violence thing.
Well,
You're
right,
just gonna you're just gonna go too far.
right. It's being preemptive, proactive. I mean, you have to let what's happening now dictate what may happen in the future.
I would
Right?
say so, but some people will argue and push back. It's like past performance doesn't predict present or future outcome.
Well,
Because
maybe it
because
wouldn't.
people will go too far with that thinking, Harry.
Yeah, but maybe it wouldn't if there were consequences along the way. So the guy on that boat that hit the bridge, maybe if he would have suffered consequences along the way, he would have
Yeah.
corrected his behavior. Same thing with a cop. You can't say, "Oh, well, for the last 10 years he's been having." What do you mean? Shouldn't it have been snipped in the bud right there in the first year, the first time it happened? So but when you're looking back 10 years at a record of abuse, and then you're surprised when he does something stupid, you can't have those situations.
You get no argument from me. I'm kind of with you on that one.
But I understand the storm. It costs more money to reinforce stuff and stuff like that. But when you live in a community like you like to call it Jurassic Park, Florida,
Because it is. You see all these
right?
alligators and stuff in people's houses now, Harry?
Yeah, right. So they said, "Oh, the water in the streets is the sewage and everything. Oh, and also the alligators in the waters." Well,
And snakes.
yeah, I'm like, well, start there because the sewage, yeah, that's bad, but the sewage isn't gonna bite me,
No, it's gonna poison you.
right? But I can deal with that. I could be like, okay, I got to make sure I'm not drinking this water and everything, but when you have to move around that community to go and get assistance, and there are gators in the water, not they're just like, yeah, oh, and there's gators in the water. Like, oh yeah. Just a reminder, this state is Jurassic Park, right? It's like, okay, wait. So do you go, oh, by the way, there's raptors in the line.
Harry, people got gators in their house. Like, there's so much water, they just are in. I don't know what you do with that. I don't even. How do you get them out? You can't get them out. Hey, Lumi, look at that baby. Look at that hair. Oh, now she acting like, oh, I don't want to be bothered.
She got her morning fro going right
I
now.
love it. Go ahead, girl.
But, well, Mama, you okay?
Hmm.
You just want to see yourself on camera?
Does she see herself?
Yeah.
All right. We see you too, Lumi. Hi, Lumi. How are you?
So that Jurassic Park situation is just that's why it's like my family's been saying, come on, move down to Florida. First, Jurassic Park is one thing, and then all these storms. And then you live in a place where the insurance company is throwing its hands up and saying, yeah, we can't keep, actually insuring you guys because we're losing money and we're in the business of making money, right? insurance is in case ish happens, but when it's
Yeah.
happening all the time, they're like,
Yeah.
we can't do it. It's the same thing in California right now. They're having issues with insurance companies leaving the state also because people are actually building next to the forest. Okay. Right? They actually are building their houses next to the tree line, and then they put fireplaces in their homes, and they wonder why these trees are going, catching fire and stuff. And then, God forbid, California goes through a drought, and we're like, oh my God. Then they get rain, and forget it, mudslides all over
Yeah.
the place. And then people build on a cliff and wonder why their houses.
Although I personally think they should have never allowed people to build on cliffs like that. Like you
Yeah,
have to be way back from that. Like you can't because it that's a lot of money, Harry. And people have built back two and three times, but that's rich people. Poor people don't have the ability to do that.
right, right. It's different when you build on a cliff, and I don't even know if an insurance company is actually insuring anybody on that cliff. I think they actually just tell you, "Well, you're crazy." Yeah,
Yeah. Put some reserves aside for yourself.
yeah, you're nuts. We're not insuring you up
We're
there.
not insuring you. Put some money in reserve somewhere
Yeah.
because
But
it's gonna happen.
but those places, on the coast, they're the ones suffering the most and everything. And then you look at Florida, right? The deaths that came from this hurricane Milton actually were from tornadoes that got triggered by the hurricane.
Oh yeah, I saw. Did you see those hurricanes, Harry? I
Yeah.
saw the pictures. They was going down the street like through the hardware. I was like,
So I
what
think
is?
there were like 19 tornadoes that landed on the opposite coast of where the hurricane came in. So it's like they got hit on each coast because of the tornadoes that were created by the hurricane condition. So it's crazy. I'm
It's
not moving
sad.
to any coast, and I would move to you know Middle America, but nowhere where they like you actually name a place Tornado Alley and stuff like that. I'm like, what are people doing moving there? It's called Tornado Alley. I'm like, I don't know.
I think
But I would move from Connecticut.
where?
But that's the thing. It's like,
Where would you go?
where would you go? Um, but I don't know. I really don't.
Because you don't want to be any place where it's tornadoes. I don't want to be anywhere where it's massive snow. That would and freezing. I don't want to go anywhere where water is a premium where you have to have it pumped in. I don't want that either. And in the heat waves,
I know
massive heat.
you're living in soup, basically.
Harry. Mm. No, Connecticut seems to dodge bullets all the time.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
I mean, we've been getting a lot of tornado warnings and a couple
I
of
know,
touchdown.
I
So
know.
and I look, when all of this stuff happens, I'm always on the Weather Channel, and I try to make sense out of stuff. It's like high pressure here, and you know a cold front coming from Canada with high pressure heat, and it's like boom, you have a bomb cyclone, and it's like what the hell? I never heard of that stuff before.
I don't know what part of the country that has weather that's simple. I don't know. I don't know where. And I don't want to live in the West because the glacier the snow comes off the mountains and wreaks havoc, you know. And then I don't want to live in a place where they got drought situations for months on end.
I know you look at Michigan and all of those places, and it's like, oh well, they get lake effect snow, and
Oh,
it's
I don't want that either, Harry. That's a nightmare.
It's like,
And
what?
that's months and months.
I
I'm
know
like,
it's like
oh,
lake effect snow. Can't we control that lake? Oh, I guess the Jews can, right? No.
I guess if they
Control.
want to move there, we got to get them to move there or something. I don't know. I, I listen. All this stuff is just crazy, 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 crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, the weather right now, these 100-year storms that have been hitting. And then, I mean, I don't think North Carolina's ever been hit with anything like that.
Well, Asheville is in the mountains, Harry.
Yeah. It's like,
Asheville is in the mountains, and that mud came through there. That rain. I've never seen anything like it. I went to college in North
what was
Carolina. I
it?
never saw anything like that.
It created like a huge river, right? It was just like insane. Um, yeah, this just, and then they were like, whoa, they were unprepared. Yeah, anybody's unprepared for that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who's prepared.
I mean,
I
how
mean, I
would
think the
you know something like that? And it's like, oh, the government wasn't prepared for that. Well, nobody prepares for those types of conditions. All you could do is they knew they were going to get bad weather, but nothing like that.
right. I mean, I think the only states that are really prepared for stuff is like upstate New York, like Buffalo, because they know every winter is just going to be crazy. So they know how to deal with that.
Well, places like Florida, California, it's a necessity to be prepared for stuff like that, right? But even that, you can only prepare so much. You don't expect a category 5 storm to follow a category 4 storm, especially I think about a week and a half ago, they had said, oh, we were wrong about this hurricane season. It's not as bad as we thought. And as soon as that comes out their mouth, 2 category 4 and category 5 hurricanes hit. So it's like, this is the thing. You can't
And
pre
hurricane season is technically over.
well, it's over in I think end of October, early November, right? So that's still and I
I
remember
thought they were done early October, but
and I
okay.
remember going on a cruise in I think it was late November, and I wasn't able to stop in the islands. It was a Caribbean cruise, and we weren't able to stop in the islands because a hurricane came through. So even late November, you still have some trailers, you know, coming down. But
I don't know how people live in these trailers, Harry, in these states where
oh my
storms
God,
are.
I don't know. I would have to get it. Live in my trailer would be a tank because it's or I would dig a hole and make my trailer a bunker. I just don't see how they do it. It's like I just don't see how they do it.
I don't know how they allow it, but I mean, it's housing, but that's those kinds of things are the first to go in these kinds of storms, right? They're the first to go.
Well, they should be the first to drive off, right? That's where I would go. You
And
tell
gas
me,
stations ran out of gas. See,
well,
this is my whole fear. That whole scenario, Harry, when I saw the highways backed up and people running out of gas, that's what's going to do us in. It's that kind of scenario that for me worries me about any kind of apocalyptic thing. That
see,
we
my
can't
thing,
move people. We
I was
can't move people.
I was looking at it, right? And for me, I think it was a big mistake. And of course, like I said, Monday morning quarterbacking, but I was watching one side of the highway at a standstill, and the other side, people still trickling in. And I don't know if those are emergency workers still trickling in, but they should have opened up the other side and made everything going out of the state.
Yeah. Yeah, but you got to get stuff. You got to get emergency stuff in.
Yeah, so there should be like a lane for emergency vehicles, but because all you saw was trickles of people coming.
Yeah.
So if you had both sides of the highway headed out, it would have been much easier. But
That's
you have
a
now everybody's stuck on the highway with
you
no gas.
should you should go
And
be the governor of Florida.
imagine if you're in an electric vehicle. If you're in an
Whoa,
electric vehicle, forget it.
you
Nobody's
should
coming to charge your car in the middle of the highway. At
you
least
should
somebody could bring you gas.
you should run for governor of Florida, Harry. That's the best damn thing I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, I'm like, I would have. I mean, I don't know if there's any. Lumi, don't do that. I don't know if there's any cops enforcing anything at that point, but I would have been driving out on the other side, wrong way traffic, because it just made no sense to me. I'm like, what are they doing? That's not the way, the most optimal way of actually getting people out of your state.
Yeah, because it was, and people had to leave their cars on the road because they ran out of gas. And
And then where you going, right? You're running
yeah,
from the
where are you
tunnel.
going? Yeah, that was bad. I mean, every time I see these kinds of examples, Harry, I always think we would be doomed because we can't even move people. We can't even evacuate people in a way that makes sense. We just tell people you got to get out of town, and then everybody at the same time gets out of goes.
Oh, another thing is that I was hearing on the radio, people were saying that they didn't run out of gas. Their cars just stopped, right? So they said they don't know if it was because I think they said there were over 100 lightning strikes, all, like back to back to back to back to back. And they were saying they don't know if it was an electric pulse that went out that shut off some of the cars
Wow,
from
that's a little.
from the
That's a little.
lightning.
See,
So it's like, oh my God, imagine that. You now I'm thinking definitely end of the world if my car just stops.
yeah,
I'm
we got
thinking
we got to keep some bikes and scooters in the car, something.
for real. Mountain bikes, but then you're fighting everybody for your mountain bike because the people who didn't think about it, they're like, hey, that's not fair.
I don't know, Harry. The older I get, the more I'm like, I am ill prepared for the end of the world. I'm just ill prepared.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I'm ill prepared. I'm ill prepared.
Well,
I think that's comforting to know.
even the most prepared are going to be ill prepared because let's say you have a wonderful bunker in your house, but when the end of the world happens, you're 400 miles away. You still got to get to your home from wherever you are at. And let me tell you, chaos is going to ensue after about 4 days.
Well, that's what I mean, Harry. I
Yeah.
mean, we have no legitimate way. We don't practice this in states. We don't practice this in cities. We should be having evacuation drills. How do you do this? We should just say on Saturday, everybody in New Haven, we're gonna figure out an evacuation plan, and everybody's got to participate.
Well, we wouldn't be able to do it because that means we're invading other states.
I know.
So the
But if
other
we
states,
but if we had a conversation with other states, like how do we evacuate and where do people go and what's going to be the point? The point place. Is there open land where people can camp for a period of time? You know what I mean? Like that's how we have to think about this, but I don't think we can think about it in the middle of it's happening. I think we have to be proactive about it. But I don't want to sound like a survivalist or any of that. Or maybe I do, Harry. Maybe I want to sound like a survivalist. Just
well, the
saying.
best way, but even that, I mean, we've been through this before, right? You have FEMA, the website. If you go to the FEMA's website,
No.
they'll tell you what to do, but they tell you to basically stay home.
Yeah.
But it all depends on the chaos, the catastrophe that happens. It depends on that, right? So, like, God forbid, like that commercial. You remember we did the commercial of New York did a commercial.
Yeah.
Oh, we've just been hit by a nuclear bomb, and it's like, oh my God.
And
So you
they had the nerve to have it as a cartoon, right?
yeah,
Wasn't it a cartoon?
right. And it's like just stand in the go to the middle of the room. Um, we just been hit by a nuclear bomb. I'm fighting radiation poisoning right now. I'm not worried about what side of the room I'm on and everything, right? So, but think about that, right? So now you're gonna have all that radiation moving up the East Coast, and you have to worry about where do you go from. Connecticut is doomed if New York gets hit by a nuclear bomb, right? We're right there. So it's like we want to get away from that radiation too. But at what where do you go and when do you start moving? And this is the thing about the storm too, right? Where they're going, well, we'll decide when it gets to the coast of Tampa Bay whether everyone should evacuate. No, let's start evacuating. Start evacuating before it gets here. If it turns out that it was a dud, nothing
No harm,
happened to you.
no harm, no foul. You took a
Right.
trip.
Right. Nothing happened to you. But if it turns out to be a Cat 5 like it was, then you're safe. You're safe. And there's not an extra 200,000 people on the road. So
I think we need a yacht, Harry, and a bunker. I think we need a yacht and a bunker.
well, you see, look, you look at the Coast Guard and everything, people are like, oh my God, how are they gonna all the ships and everything? No, what they do is they go out to sea, they let the storm hit, and then they come back.
Yeah.
That is what we should do as human beings everywhere, right?
I think
You
we
know
need
it's gonna hit, you go out and you come back. But waiting till the last minute, at that point, I'm thinking to myself, probably the smartest ones, if you're gonna wait till the last minute, the smartest ones are the ones hunkering down in the house. Because that means they're not in the middle of the highway while the storm is hitting. Right? If you're one of those people who are gonna wait till the last minute, I would have been gone. I have friends out there who just left their area, right? They didn't wait for them to tell them leave the area. So that's what you have to do. I have a lot of family out there. I haven't gotten in contact with nobody yet, but
Oh God, Harry. All right, we have to talk about that on Monday.
my niece lost her house right there in Tampa.
Oh.
But she's safe. She's like at least,
How's your guy who we listen to all the time? Your cousin, who you won't send the hats to?
my brother-in-law.
Your brother-in-law.
Angel, he's fine. He said he lost electricity and everything, but he's in Jacksonville. It really just tickled Jacksonville with rain and all of that stuff. But it didn't really go through Jacksonville, so they're fine.
Wow. All right, well, we'll talk more on Monday. Maybe you'll have some updates.
Yeah. You broke it, Mama.
Yeah, some updates. All right, we have to go, Harry. Look what time it is.
Oh yeah.
I know you got other people behind me, don't you?
Yeah, and I got this little one.
All right. Thank you. I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you for listening to the LoveBabz LoveTalk program on WNHH LP 103.5 FM. Community Radio.
Okay, you programmed yourself out.